Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today with me here is Alex Howland, the president and co-founder of Virbela. And we'll get later to what Virbela is all about. But I want to start by asking you, Alex, what do you think is the benefit of using the metaverse for remote work? And there's, of course, lots of people who are doing remote work without the metaverse. And you are focusing on the benefits of the metaverse, of virtual reality for remote work. So tell me a little bit more about your perspective there.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Happy to share my perspective on the benefits of the metaverse for remote work. My background is as an organizational psychologist. So I often kind of structure things at the individual, team, and organizational levels. And I think about the benefits in that construct of individual, team, and organization element. So starting with the individual, we take a look at the benefits people have found during the pandemic of being able to work from anywhere. They've really enjoyed that freedom to be able to work from anywhere. Some people have moved or closer to family, have better support with their child care or elderly parent care, those sorts of things. But there's also been downsides for the individual, feelings of loneliness, feelings of not really feeling connected with the community that you're a part of at your organization. So we think, how can we give people kind of that in-person experience, the benefits of being together, having the water cooler moments, having that sense of presence with your colleagues without being physically at the office, having to commute to the office, those sorts of things. At the team level, we think about team development and some of the history and the things that have been done for team development. Oftentimes those include games, things like taking a group to a ropes course or an orienteering exercise as a team and facilitating some of those elements. The metaverse is really built on gaming technologies that you can really leverage specifically for team development, I think, in unique and exciting ways that we're just starting to scratch the surface. So that's an example at the team level, and maybe at the organizational level, we think about the cost of not having brick and mortar. Can we have the benefits of that kind of shared space that you get from the office, but without actually having to pay for that space? And can we still bring our teams together and having that sense of inclusivity and the ability to recruit from anywhere, and really allowing the company to shape the culture it's trying to manifest within the organization by the design and how they operate in the metaverse, and make sure there's access to leadership and those sorts of things. So I could go on for probably hours on this topic, but those are examples in each of the buckets at the individual, team, and organizational level that we give a lot of thought about in terms of the benefits of remote work in the metaverse.
So when we're thinking about, let's talk about the individual level. I have definitely spoken to some of my clients who I hope transition to hybrid work and remote work and figuring this out, who experimented with some metaverse options, but then they found that wearing, let's say, an Oculus headset for 8 hours a day is just exhausting.
Not doable.
And so, right. So tell me a little bit more about the challenges for the individual level, for an individual who would be asked to engage in the metaverse. What is the problem? How do you solve that challenge?
Right. So I think it's a very common idea that the metaverse equals putting on a 3D VR headset or AR headset. And I kind of hardly disagree. I don't think you have to be in a headset to be in a metaverse type experience. So at Virbela, I'd say 99% of the time, we're actually just on our desktop, right? Interfacing with the virtual world through 2D interfaces, but yet still having that great sense of immersion. So I think there'll be times where it makes sense to put the VR headset on. We do things like training with the military, where being in the headset really makes a difference. And there's 3D printed objects, so you get the haptics associated with the visuals. in there. It really makes sense in those training situations. But on a day-to-day basis, in terms of being present with your colleagues in a remote area, I'd actually recommend against the headset and recommend a more 2D mode, whether it be on typically desktop is what I suggest, but I also think we need a lot of mobile interfaces into these metaverse experiences as well.
Now, we can't talk about the metaverse and the few remote work without talking about some of the controversy with Meta itself, the company. And it has been swallowing up a lot of air about the metaverse.
Sure has.
And has not looked very successful from a lot of commentators in terms of Horizon Worlds, its virtual world. So given that the company, Facebook, has been swallowing up a lot of air, how do you see the metaverse proceeding in the future with this big giant player as something that doesn't seem very successful and perhaps causing some disenchantment with the metaverse more broadly?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the element points to the challenges ahead in some of the difficulty and complexities in terms of moving this field forward. And truthfully, I'm excited, that Meta is investing heavily in this space. I think it actually helps move the whole industry forward. They've just kind of started at it, where we've been doing it since 2010, 2012 was originally got our first funding. So there's a lot of elements that go into making this successful in a number of different areas. And it's a reason why we specifically focus kind of on enterprise and education sector with our offering, in that we're not trying to boil the ocean. We're not trying to do everything for everyone like Meta is trying to do. And we can really focus on kind of the enterprise and think of it from a multi-domain, multidisciplinary background in terms of what will this take. And I see Meta really focusing a lot on the technological challenges of doing this, but I think the psychological elements are equally, if not more, important, because the metaverse at the end of the day is all about people and community, right? So we really need to be taking the angle of what is the value, right, to the individual, the team, and the organization that makes this successful going forward. And there'll be lots of trials and tribulations, just like they were, in creation of the World Wide Web, the internet, in doing all of this. What's unique is that we have real companies doing this on a day-to-day basis and have been doing it for quite some years, that we get to learn and iterate over time based on those. Be happy to share some of those success stories. Maybe specifically our now sister company, eXp Realty, has quite an interesting story.
Yeah, why don't you tell us, so you've been working on this for over a decade. Tell me a little bit more about the origin of Virbela and how you came to be where you are, and what does your product currently look like for someone who wants to do remote work and doesn't want to put on a headset for 9 hours a day?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got started when I was pursuing my PhD in organizational psychology. I was taking classes like individual and team assessments, cultural diversity, learning about doing business in a global economy, online, learning and development. And while most of my classes were in person, I had some online, and really thought we were missing kind of that community element that you got in person, that you just didn't get in a remote sector. So I saw virtual worlds and actually how clinicians were using virtual worlds effectively for clinical work, things like treating phobias and whatnot, and thought, hey, we can develop global communities where we can have peer-to-peer learning in leadership development, as well as create games and simulations that allow us to assess leadership competencies and give feedback based on those behaviors in the virtual world to help people improve their leadership skills in a safe environment with people from all over the world. Myself and some colleagues were fortunate to win a couple $1 million in grant funding from GMAT, the owner of the GMAT exam, to get into business school to get started. And we did that in partnership with the University of California, San Diego. So that's where we got started. And since then, we continue to work with a number of universities. Stanford's been running global exec ed courses in the platform with cohorts from about 300 logging in from over 100 countries in the platform. MIT is doing some work in there, ASU, as well as some global universities as well. Our sister company, eXp Realty, actually extended our vision a bit in the sense that, hey, we can actually run entire companies in the metaverse. We weren't calling it the metaverse back then, but in virtual worlds, in these platforms. The founder of eXp had had a tough time during the 2008 downturn. So when he went to go rebuild his business in 2009, he gave himself the business constraint that I'm not going to have any brick and mortar offices. He sent everyone home with a laptop and said, hey, we're going to engage in virtual worlds, and that's how we're going to grow our business. They were in some other virtual worlds before Virbela, but came to Virbela in 2016. They were 1,000 agents. And here, 6 years later, they just surpassed 85,000 agents. So 1,000 to 85,000 agents on the platform. So there's an example of the benefit at the organizational level, the ability to grow and grow without fixed costs of brick and mortar. Those savings allow them to put together a financial model that's really good for the realtor, their customer, which helps them attract very quickly. They were also able to expand into 20 new countries during a global pandemic without stepping foot, on a plane. And they're actually profitable compared to some of the other, maybe startup real estate companies that you might have heard of, Redfin or Compass, who are actually losing a lot of money. eXp is actually profitable, certainly partly because they operate in the metaverse. So that's all great at the business level. What's really exciting me at the individual level is they've actually been voted Glassdoor's best place to work the last 5 years in a row. They're now number 4 on the list this past year. So it's not only working for the organization, but it's also working for the individuals, which again is the piece that I think is so important. So people are logging into the metaverse each day on their computer. I don't know if it'd be helpful to share a screen or something. I'd be happy to share my screen and give you a sense of what it looks like, if that makes sense. But they log in, they might be doing onboarding, they might be doing training development, they might be getting support with transactions, they might be attending a mastermind meeting, but it's really about community and having community both among the employees as well as, in this case, their customer, who's the realtor. So we obviously working closely with eXp Realty, but working with a number of organizations, like some of the universities I mentioned, PwC, Fujitsu, VMware, so it's technology organizations, consultancies, accounting firms, kind of all over the map in terms of healthcare organizations, J&J, lots of different folks coming in for different elements, usually of the employee experience in this hybrid and remote sector.
So when you think about, let's say, companies like J&J, which we have some people working in the office and have some people working remotely, how do you combine that in the virtual world experience?
Yeah. So I actually think hybrid is probably a lot harder than fully remote, right? Because now you have
of course. So that's why I'm asking. Yes,
this blended experience. We also think a little bit about a hub and spoke model, right? Where even those who are in an office, oftentimes they're working for an organization with multiple offices, right? So you already have all these sub offices, these what I consider a spoke. What I think there's opportunity for the metaverse is creating actually your hub, where the hub can be the metaverse itself, and now your physical offices are the spokes. So we're doing some interesting work with PwC and some of their innovation centers, which they have innovation centers all over the world, but they're actually creating a central metaverse environment in Virbela, which has actually digital twins of each of their buildings in the different parts of the regions all over the world. And it's a place for the people in these respective innovation centers to actually come together and have more of a united culture feel. Also ideate and share ideas with each other. So this idea where we think innovation often lies between silos. We think the metaverse can actually break down some of those silos, bring in unique, diverse ideas and perspectives from people in different parts of the world with different backgrounds and those sorts of things. We can bring unique perspectives. So that's just an example. Another example, I think the people who are remote often feel like second-class citizens
Sure.
in those hybrid meetings. So we actually push our clients that, hey, if it's going to be a hybrid meeting, actually everyone log in, right? Everyone log into the metaverse. Now you're leveling the playing field. No one has advantage, by being in the office. I think it's important that leaders spend time in there too, because
Sure.
they need to be accessible to their employees. Obviously, there's bias to the people who are close to them, if they're in the physical office, where if they can have collisions and run-ins with different employees in different parts of the country or the world, in the metaverse now people can get access in a more equitable way with leadership.
Okay, when you're talking about issues of bias and so on, I was wondering about diversity, equity, inclusion in the metaverse. I just published an article in Forbes about challenges for people with disabilities in terms of the mandate to return to the office from many companies.
Yep.
We've seen that compared to before the pandemic, the rate of employment for people with disabilities is higher by 3.5%. And that's numbers that came out quite recently.
Yep.
And by comparison, for people without disabilities, it's still 1.1% lower than before the pandemic. And the main differentiating factor is remote work that facilitates people working with who have disabilities. Tell me a little bit more about diversity, equity, inclusion in the metaverse, how it impacts people with disabilities, how it impacts people of different ethnicities, gender, and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's great opportunity for D&I initiatives, and we're seeing a number of them in the platform. Some of the ones I was just mentioning, this idea of building empathy just by connecting people who typically don't have an opportunity to come together. I think there's opportunity for people to show up known for their ability versus disability in the platform, because they can choose how they show up. And that will vary by the community too. If there's someone in the wheelchair, right? They might love being able to run around or walk around the campus with their avatar. There might be others who's, that might be too emotional. They'd rather have, be in a wheelchair in the environment as well. So I think we'll learn even some of the individual differences within different communities, but this idea for access, breaking down the barrier to get in and have equal opportunity to show up how you'd like to be perceived, to be seen, is I think a great advantage of the metaverse. Obviously, reducing the obstacles and challenges of just physically getting to the office, I think is really helpful. And then the choice, that the avatar provides in terms of how you want to show up, and that might be the more traditional D&I things that we think about, but I also think about different personality types, right? We see and observe introverts. They tell us, I don't know why, but I feel more comfortable speaking up in this environment. I never speak this much, in a meeting. Or we've had doctors and nurses, in the environment, and a nurse stands up to a doctor and catches herself midway. It's like, oh my gosh, I've never stood up to a doctor like I just did. And I don't know why. Again, I feel comfortable in doing that. So I think there's great opportunities, as well as I think there's great opportunities for research in the space in terms of understanding, implicit bias as well as overt bias in the environment, and a lot of research should be done. I think Stanford's Jeremy Ballason's lab has done a bit of work in that space, which is interesting. So yeah, lots of opportunity. Obviously, show up as you'd like. With that, creating an avatar system that suits everyone is a big feat, and we invest
Sure.
pretty heavily in our avatar system. But making sure they're non-binary, options, make sure the options are representative of different, ethnicities and backgrounds. Same with the clothing options. So it's actually a big investment to do it right, particularly I think on the enterprise side. But it's an investment that must be done, and one that we're continuously making, so that people do feel like they have a choice in terms of how they show up in these environments.
That makes sense, especially since you're expanding. A number of companies on your platform are expanding globally.
Yeah,
so that makes it
absolutely.
more difficult.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit of how long is the onboarding and learning curve for people who are starting to use Virbela's product?
Yeah. So we give a lot of thought to accessibility in general. It's part of the reason why we're more desktop focused than we are VR focused, because most people don't have a VR headset, at this point. But we also try to make it, really, really easy to use without having, any gaming experience or whatnot. There's lots of easy navigation options in the environment, whether it's point and click with your mouse, or use the arrows in your keyboard, or if you're a gamer, you might use the WASD, keys. So we try to meet people where they're at, and make them feel comfortable in the technology pretty quickly. There are a lot of tools that overlap with tools that you get here on Zoom, things like webcam share, screen share, those sorts of things, and we try to use the universal symbols and whatnot. So it's very comparable when you go to use those tools. So for most people, it's particularly to be a participant, it's a matter of minutes, not hours. What I will say is we want people to get to a state of flow, in the environment, if they are going to work in there regularly, which that might take, a couple of weeks, right? I want you to go into the metaverse, not think about being in the metaverse. I want you to go there and feel present with your team and your company, and feel like you're part of, that office or the campus community and whatnot. So, I don't know if it's a week or 3 weeks or what it is, but I want it to be so natural that you kind of forget that you're even in a different dimension. Give an example. My 3-year-old comes into my physical office, and she sees my virtual office and my virtual couch, and she's like, "Oh, Dad, you're in your office, and there's your couch." And in her 3-year-old brain, that virtual couch doesn't mean much different than the physical couch, in our living room, right? It's just natural. And it's actually interesting how, maybe even scary, how our brains are easily tricked to having that sense of immersion and presence in there, and kind of forgetting about the kind of like the digital nature. I compare it to reading a book, right? You're not looking at the black and the white on the page, you're getting immersed in the story. In very similar case in the enterprise metaverse, we want you there. We want you to be productive. We want you to feel present with your team, close to your team, and run your successful business.
Excellent. Now, as we wrap up, is there anything else you wish to share about the metaverse or Virbela that we haven't yet talked about in remote work?
Yeah, I would say it's not too early. So obviously these technologies are going to continue to get better and better. I strongly recommend people giving it a try, and do more than kick the tires, right? Really actually spend some time in different tools. And there are a lot of different tools out there. Obviously, I'll give a plug for us. You can go on our website, Virbela.com, and download for free and get into our open campus, interact with folks, have a meeting with your team, those sorts of things. We also have a platform called FrameVR.io, which is entirely web-based. You can get in there also for free and interact with your teams. There are a number of other elements. I'd say get in and get a sense. And then you might say, "Oh yeah, I can see where these are going. I can see how it'll get better, over time." But then a reminder that, hey, we've built a multi-billion-dollar business in our sister company, eXp Realty, on these platforms. So, I think it's easy to say, "Oh, it's too early. It's not here yet." Meta needs to invest, 10 more billion before we're there. But I'd argue that a lot of the benefits are already there if you dig in, lean in, and you're going to be in a much better place as the technology does get better by leaning in now. So maybe I'll leave the audience with that. We hope to see you in the virtual world. Give it a try, whether it's ours or another, and experiment and engage with your colleagues.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing that, Alex. And I want to thank the listeners and viewers for checking out this episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Again, my name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to leave a review wherever you check this out, on iTunes, Amazon, and please make sure to subscribe to the show. I look forward to seeing you next episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. And in the meantime, the wisest, most profitable decisions to you, my friends.